Hey guys, welcome back to the Cookie Chat. Thank you so much for being here. You hear me right here. This is Melissa with Missy P Sweets. My amazing co-host Chelsea with Rolling in the Dough AZ is feverishly finishing up all of her Easter pre-sales, as we know that many of you are doing right now. Real quick, let's get all the goodies out of the way. So if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe and like below so that you don't miss an episode. Go ahead and pop over and check out our Patreon if you haven't already. That is in the show notes. We share so many more resources there. We have a text crew over there. We've got discounts on merch. We have exclusive content too, videos and cookie room tours and all kinds of things. So go ahead and check that out as well. And without further ado, I am so excited to bring in a guest today because while we live on Instagram, the area that we are not as well versed in is TikTok. And I think so many of us have so many questions about kind of diving into TikTok and understanding more about it. And so we reached out to our amazing friend, Maddie at Gardy Goodies. She is huge over there on TikTok. If you did not know, go ahead and check her out. Everything is going to be linked down below in the show notes. But hello, Miss Maddie. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good and super happy to be here. This is so much fun.
Yes.
I love chatting anything cookies anytime with anyone.
I know we had to cut ourselves off like ahead of time because we just like kept diving into things. I was like, okay, well, we got to start recording now. So thank you again so much for taking the time. I know that you too are working on Easter pre-sales. So again, this is not a visual. No, on Patreon, we're not going to have a visual this week because I promised Maddie that you can work on cookies at the same time.
Very much so appreciated.
Yes, no problem. So as I said before, this is Maddie with Gardy's Goodies. I'm saying
You're
that
right. Gardy Goodies.
Right?
Yep. No
Gardy
S. Yep.
Goodies, no S. Okay. So I always love to know how people even came up with the name. So obviously I can see your name in front of me here, but if you could give a little synopsis of how you came up with the name and what that means to you and your brand.
Well, so I started out with cakes. I think a lot of women in this industry probably started out there. And so I was Maddie Cakes. And then cakes got too stressful once I had my son. Once I had a newborn, I couldn't just make a cake in you get 3 hours start to finish. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on cookies because I can pick those up and, go back and forth. But with the name being Maddie Cakes, I was like, I don't want to confuse anyone because I really just want to stop doing cakes. And I had just gotten married. So I think Gartman, wanting to incorporate my last name. And then I just liked Gardy Goodies better than Gartees Goodies because it kind of sounded like Chanel or something, like.
Yeah, it almost sounds as if the T is like standing for something too.
It's the brand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. So
mm-hmm.
that's how it came.
I love it. And so, okay, well, my first question, because I did cakes too, and then phase those out to just cookies. So what was your reasoning?
It was like, I had a couple really stressful orders that like lost a lot of sleep over that still, honestly, when I see pictures of those pop up in my memories, it like brings me back to that moment in my life.
Yes.
And I was already so, stressed out trying to figure out life as a new mom that I was just like, I can't add that into my life. And cookies just weren't as stressful for me. I mean, there's times you're working up to the deadline and that sort of thing, but they were a lot more predictable on what was going to happen. And so, yeah, I just had to nix the cakes.
That's a great way to put it. I always said that cakes are like a living thing. And with cookies, it's just like they solidify, and once you get them in the bag and in the box, like, unless it's something like color bleed or your dog's going to eat them, like they're pretty much checked off your list. You don't really have to think about it. But with cakes, there are just so many more variables.
Yep. And with like a cookie, if a design goes bad, you scrape it off and you do it again. It's so simple. Whereas a cake, it's like, if it goes bad, you could be starting over, you know, it's so much, so much pressure.
I have so much respect for the cake decorators of the world. Yeah. So much respect. Well, that's cool. So how did you even get into the cookie game to begin with?
Just a serial hobbyist. Like every single hobby under the sun I had to conquer, and not conquer, just I had to try. So, crocheting, cross stitching,
So were you
taking
a YouTuber or were you like, where did you get all your knowledge?
probably Pinterest now that I think about it.
Ooh.
But just Google searches. Really, I wasn't really loyal to any one platform. And um, then I wanted to take a cake decorating class. I got into cupcakes. That led to that was my
Mhm.
gateway drug. And then it opened the doors. And then like I never planned on just sticking with cookies. And sometimes I get like a little sad that cookies have become so much of my creative outlet that I don't have as much room for all that other experimentation. But
Yeah.
they're also one that I still enjoy. So as long as I'm still enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing
That's
it.
really amazing to hear. That's amazing to hear. And yeah, we like to kind of we touch on this a lot of there's kind of like the three categories of hobby bakers and then there's part-time bakers who like don't it's like an excess money into the household or like kind of the fun money or just covering kind of like the expenses of what they're doing. And then there are full-time bakers. So where do you kind of classify yourself?
um, at one time, I definitely was a hobby baker because I was teaching, and so I think my business was just kind of like making baby shower cookies for other teachers that were, I undersold, probably sold them for like $1 each, like
Oh yeah.
just
Don't we all in the beginning?
and I didn't care, it didn't
Yeah.
matter. And
Yeah.
then, my background story of how my business really came to be is when we lost our daycare that we had lined up for my son. I was on maternity leave, already just so hormonal and so just emotional. And every new daycare that I toured, I would call my husband crying. I just like, I can't do it. And he put together a plan and he's like, I think we can make it work if you quit your job, which was something I never thought that I could do. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I was just like, oh, it's just not going to be in the cards for me with like the way the economy is
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
um, and so I was excited about that. But it meant we had to sell our house. And like my husband sold his car and started riding the bus to work. But I had just bought a brand new car, like a safer mom car.
Mhm.
And I was like, if I could just return this car, please, but I couldn't. And so he was like, if you can just make that one car payment, if you can figure out a way. And so it's what, like $250 a
Yeah.
month. And I was like, okay, I think I can at least make that much in cookies. So I guess that's where it became a full-time business, but
Yeah.
really, is it ever full-time when you have kids? No.
No.
so,
No.
so that's how it all
It's the
began.
nap time, nighttime hustle of it all.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I just have to cut in and say that's really commendable that you guys like really figured out that plan for yourself and sacrificed so much to make that happen. I mean, it's just like I mean, so many of our so much of our community are parents, and it's just the endless sacrifices that you do make. But at the end of the day, it's worth it, and we're all like where we're meant to be at the end of the day, right?
So worth it. So
Yeah.
worth it. And now it's become more full-time because now we want a bigger house and we've got a bigger family. Now we're like, okay,
Mm.
let's get out of this house. So now I'm
Yeah.
working towards that. So now it's become
Oh,
even more full-time. But
well, that's amazing. Well, that's really, really cool. I love hearing that journey. Was TikTok a big thing? I guess how long ago did you kind of like establish Gardy Goodies?
okay, so I'll tell you my TikTok origin story then.
Okay.
So I have teenage nieces. They keep me young. And I knew they were always on TikTok. And, I was like in the same bandwagon of every other millennial of like, I am not joining that app. Like, that is yours. You guys can have that. It's fine.
Hmm.
And then
Were
I
you
had,
on Instagram already?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
very, very much on Instagram and had
With
my
Gardy
own,
Goodies or just personally?
yep, with Gardy
With Gardy
Goodies.
Goodies. Okay.
Because I would say that Instagram for Gardy Goodies was like 2017 when I started
Okay.
and had like a nice following. I'd hit like I think 3,000 followers. I was pretty
Yeah.
happy with that and just like enjoyed my community.
Yeah.
And then I had my daughter during the pandemic. So not only was I figuring out life with two babies, but two babies during a pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
you know how it
Preach.
is. Yeah. You know how it is with a newborn too. It's like you have all the time in the world, but also no time in the world because
100%.
you're like
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing and doing everything.
Yeah.
And so I would just be sitting, feeding my daughter and, trying to get my 2-year-old to nap. And I'd be scrolling TikTok because it was at the time way more fun than Instagram. I was kind of sick of
Yeah.
I was
It's a
sick of looking
different
at cookie
environment.
pictures. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so this was 2020, so it was kind of it was a different environment on TikTok then too. And didn't have time to take any orders, just didn't want to add that back into my life. But like I said, I'm like a serial hobbyist. Like I some people need to work out to maintain their mental health, and I need to do something creative.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not exercising a creative muscle, I seriously get depressed.
Has it always been that way, and have you always known that about
Yes.
yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I articulated it later on in my 20s, but looking back at my whole life, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm always doing some creative
Mhm.
outlet. That's what keeps me
Yeah.
happy. So I knew I didn't have time to make cookies, but I was like, man, I've got all these cookie videos that I've filmed, and, they're not great. But what I
Mhm.
already could see about TikTok is that it didn't need to be. You know,
Mm.
Instagram is so perfectly curated and it's beautiful and it's aspiring, but
Well, because it was kind of established for, like, the photographer, you
yep.
know?
And for
Like,
the
that's what it was
influencer,
about, yeah.
yeah, it's this idea of this lifestyle you want to be. And so I knew I couldn't do that, but I was like, well, I've got these, crappy videos. And then I followed a lot of I made a point to not follow any cookiers or bakers on TikTok because I didn't want to get influenced by it.
So
I just
smart.
I
Keep it
just
a safe
wanted
space of, like,
exactly.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and I just wanted to make sure whatever I posted on TikTok was super authentic to myself.
Mhm.
And so I really liked the idea of just doing a voiceover of talking about what I was working on or a story that I had, up my sleeve. And I've gathered enough stories in my time that I know what, from being a teacher, I know what people will like. And so I just took the old videos in my phone, maybe edited them a little bit, and then threw a new voiceover on them. And I would do it in like the 10-minute overlap that both the babies would be sleeping.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
because of that, I developed this style where whatever came out of my mouth is what I hit and I sent out there. And I
Yeah.
let go of caring, which is really hard to do. And
Yeah.
it's even really hard. I totally understand when people don't want to show their face, when people don't want to use their voice. It's super, super hard. I think what made it feel safe was there really weren't a lot of other cookiers on TikTok.
Yeah.
And there weren't any my friends weren't on TikTok. So I got
Yeah.
to be like an anonymous person.
It's so funny, it
Yeah.
almost reminds me of, like, have you heard, like, famous people and they'll have their, like, secret, Instagram accounts or something like that, that can be, like, just theirs, so that
Yeah.
people don't know them?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's why it was, and but I think that's also why it came out a lot more authentic. So I just said to myself, I was like, okay, let's just see if you post every single day, if you can hit 10,000 followers by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because that was the big number to hit on Instagram
Uh-huh.
because
Yep.
then you got the swipe up.
Yep.
And it wasn't going to happen for me. I was like, okay, I'm not going to hit that on Instagram because I've been
Yeah.
at this for a couple years now. Let's just see if I can do it on TikTok. And honestly, I had no other reason. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be a cookie influence. There was like no other reason except for something to occupy my mind that wasn't just about keeping a baby alive. so
Sure. So
so
I'm so curious because 2020, I mean, reels weren't, like, huge on Instagram at that point. I guess videos kind of were, but it I mean, I guess what was your, influence to take so many videos to begin with? Was that because of Instagram?
well, because I loved Sweet Am's. I mean, she was like my
Yeah.
idol. I
Yeah.
learned so much from watching her, and
Yeah.
I would post them on Facebook.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I don't even know if I would post them on Instagram because Facebook you used to get tons. Well, still you do get tons of engagement
Yeah.
from people who are actually buying from you. It's
Yes.
like your
Yeah,
actual
I feel like
customers live
Facebook is,
there.
like, the truest platform for, like, your customer.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's where your local customer will be.
Yeah, so I would just make them for that reason, and I didn't have a ton, and some of them would be like a flood video from my stories, like
Sure.
just super poor quality and bad lighting and a weird angle and
Yeah.
crumbs everywhere, and but if I paired it with an interesting sound and an interesting story, it seemed to do pretty well. So
Yeah. So, how quickly, like, did things start happening pretty quickly with TikTok? Pretty,
yeah.
like, early on?
So I decided that I was going to do that January 30th of 2021.
Okay.
And that was my starting day. And I had my first video go, I got 1,000 followers really quickly,
Mhm.
probably like within a week.
Wow.
But I had to post every day. And sometimes it would be like me doing a trend. Like, you know, when we were all like experiencing reels for the first time. So we were all doing
Yes.
the trends and lip syncing and everything. And you feel really stupid, but you just
Right.
do it because you're like, I just want to participate.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it would just be that. And sometimes I could find an old video in my phone. And, but Valentine's Day was when I had my first video go viral, which I think it was like 500,000
Wow.
views. And so then it just like snowballed so quickly. And it was probably June that I already had 500K.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so how consistently were you posting on Instagram too?
I just fell off the face of Instagram.
You just kind of focused with TikTok. You're like,
I really
okay, this
did.
is where it's working for me. And so this is where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still had my cookie community on
Yeah.
Instagram. So I still posted stories all the time.
Hmm.
And some people followed me, came over from TikTok. And so my following grew on Instagram, and I hit 10K on Instagram shortly after too.
Yeah.
But I was taking some custom orders. So I was just posting pictures, you know,
Yeah.
I was actually really late to the Reels game because I was very like, they're trying to copy TikTok. I'm not going to do it. You
Yeah.
know?
Stick it to the man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
true. Well, this is so interesting. So, I mean, tell me more about now that you're kind of, I mean, because now your Instagram is really like grown too. I feel like in the past, gosh, even just like 6 to 8 months, it was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to catch up now and like get with it. Um, but how would you explain the community within TikTok and what the engagement is like in TikTok versus what engagement is typically like with Instagram, as far as comments or what kinds of people are in these areas? Like, what can we expect?
So the community on TikTok, first of all, for a long time, it was going to be a lot younger. So content that reached a more general population is just going to do better. Embarrassing stories, funny stories, love stories, you have it. I mean, you have to look at it as Gen Z as your audience.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of changed. Now there's a lot of millennials and even other generations on there too. So, but the TikTok community is different because on Instagram, comments are, oh my gosh, so pretty, beautiful, I love
The
it.
positive.
And yeah, we love that stuff. I mean, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
But on TikTok, they want to comment about what they're seeing. So if you have the littlest little slip up, the littlest little mistake, it's
Mhm.
going to get commented on. And it might
Mhm.
get commented on 400 times. Like they don't
Yeah.
care if it's been said before.
Yeah.
And I think,
Don't you think that some of that is because it's a younger audience? And
for sure.
so they just, yeah, they're used to having this veil of invisibility and like not having to take like accountability for just kind of like having that third wall there.
Or just not thinking before they're
Yeah.
even typing.
Yeah.
A good example of that is, and I mean, I make cookies, so like I'm never going to have comments that are super negative. And I know we were going to talk about this more too, but
Yeah.
you know, early on, one of my videos that got a lot of traction was me showing how to turn regular icing into flood icing. And it's sped up, and I was making tiger cookies, so it's orange icing.
Mhm.
Well, what does orange icing look like when it's in flood form? It looks like nacho cheese.
Sure.
Guess how many people told me that it looked like nacho cheese? About, 400 people told me that it looked like
Yeah.
nacho cheese. And reading that gets super annoying when you're somebody who but you have to tuck that annoyance away and just be like, every comment is boosting my video.
Yeah.
Yes, I got 400 people that say that's gross and it looks like nacho cheese, but I
Yeah.
gained 200 followers because
Totally.
it just got to the right people.
Well, and like that's honestly a strategy with a lot of Instagram stuff. I mean, I think social media in general is purposefully misspell something because that alone will it's the same thing as what you're saying. Like any sort of slip up,
Yep.
it's going to boost engagement.
Mhm.
People are going to talk about it. Okay, so going into that a bit more with engagement, when you're getting 400 something comments, what is your engagement strategy back to them? Are you responding to every single comment? Do you feel like you need to? Do you feel like that helps?
So I post and then I stay on for 15 minutes
Mhm.
and respond to every single comment that I get within that first 15 minutes. And then I do not look at my TikTok again until the next day.
Okay.
And that's a mental health protection thing
Yeah.
that I do. And I'll sometimes go, and sometimes that, it's not the greatest because I'll miss a really great question or comment. And but I do try to go back and kind of skim through them.
Yeah.
When my engagement was way higher on TikTok when I started, so there was just no way to interact with every single comment.
Mhm.
Now it's gotten to be a little bit more manageable. I think the engagement just across TikTok as a platform in general is lower for every
Mhm.
creator.
Well, it's just so like there's so many more people.
It's saturated. Yeah. So that's just how I do it. I spend 15 minutes, hyper focusing on my own stuff, and then I put it away, or else it dominates. It can really dominate your whole world, and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
the real world at the end
No,
of the day.
it's not. That's smart, and I think that that's a great way to go. That's what I always recommend too, is stay on at least, 5 minutes. And also a strategy is to like go back and comment on some of your older posts too, because it just raises your profile up a bit. Now, are you generally engaging with and looking at other people's content on TikTok? Is that also part of your kind of like growth strategy at all?
Yeah, but that's just what I like to look at. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
it's part of strategy. Like I said, for the longest time, I wasn't really following many other cookiers. There weren't that many to follow, first of
Yeah.
all. And so I don't want people to feel bad if I don't follow them back on TikTok, but it's just truly because it has to be a safe space for me where I need to follow stuff that brings me just pure joy. Like
Yeah.
funny mom content is like my jam. Like I could watch funny mom content all day long and it never gets
Yes.
old. So
Yes. I
so
love
no,
that.
I wouldn't say it's a huge strategy, but actually no, I take that back. It's really important to be on TikTok if you want to be successful on TikTok, and not to just
Mhm.
have it as a platform because you feel like you need to and you post and then you don't really follow up, because you have to understand the environment and the vibe,
Totally.
and your tone has to match that for it to be successful. And sometimes you have to get the inside jokes that happen only in TikTok. Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Is there I'm curious as to like how you find your music, cuz a lot of times you'll have music underneath, right? And
mhm.
then your audio on top. So how are you kind of finding that?
When I first started, I would match it to whatever my story was about. So I would just search keywords and then I would sit forever and just listen to songs that wouldn't, you know, um, be too distracting with my voice.
Mhm.
I use words like lo fi, instrumental, acoustic,
Mhm.
karaoke version all the time. Those are like my four go tos.
Karaoke version is so
Yeah.
smart. You
Yeah.
can get the vibe and everything without competing with the words.
Yeah. And it's actually, now that Reels has gotten so much popular, and because Instagram is such a more conducive to people just creating without talking, they have a
Mhm.
lot of really great song choices that are
Yeah.
just really chill music in the background. But in the beginning, those were my main. They're still my main search terms. But now on TikTok, your videos do better without background music. So
Yeah,
my
and ASMR is like super popular
yeah,
too, right? So
yeah,
just if you don't know, for anybody listening, if you don't know what ASMR is, it's I don't know, do you know what it stands for?
no,
Audio sensory something, I think, but it's about like actually hearing all of the natural sounds that are occurring when you're doing an action. So if I'm
yeah.
tapping on my computer, that's what you're actually hearing.
It's really hard to make an ASMR cookie video, basically. There
Yeah,
are
it is, especially
no
when you're
natural
speeding stuff
sounds.
up. When I've done it before, it's just like it's like
I was joking, I tried to make one with, like, a packaging video, and you could just hear me sniffling the whole time, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not cut
I
out for this
feel
type
like
of
it always
content."
cracks me up whenever I'm doing stories or something like that, and I forget to mute my sound. It's just you hear the heavy breathing.
Yes, yes. That's cookie or
Yeah.
ASMR is our
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah, exactly. Um, well, so now how do you kind of divide your time spent between the mediums? Because you are more like you do have definitely growth happening within Instagram. Are you repurposing content from TikTok into Instagram?
Yeah, so actually I'm vice versa, which is crazy because I was so anti
Mm.
Instagram and I was so pro TikTok, and then the tides kind of turned, and I mean, Instagram did a lot to try to get us back, you know. They gave us the creator bonus program, and
Yeah,
I'm
and then
sorry, but
took it away.
I know, which that's like a whole other topic, but
I
but that did motivate me,
sure.
and so it motivated me just to take whatever I was doing on TikTok and just post it on Instagram. But you know, I'm sure you know all the tricks, but you know, you
Yeah.
can't have the TikTok watermark on there,
Yeah.
and just like on TikTok, you can't have that Reels watermark on there.
Yeah.
If you want to boost your chances of being seen. And so
Yes.
you
Yeah.
do have to re-upload it and retype all your it can be exhausting,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's a whole process. It is.
it is. And
Mhm.
so now because TikTok is favoring videos over 1 minute and Instagram is favoring videos like 23 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's kind of slowed down my repurposing game a little bit, because making a video means I have to talk for over a minute long and edit it in a certain different way. And so it's kind of slowed down my game a little bit. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you are doing your audios, and guys, you can so get lost in Maddie's TikTok videos. I love the stories. Do you feel how much of different things going viral do you feel like is because of the video versus because of the audio?
That's such a good question. I think they go so hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because people have the worst attention spans in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like either they're there for the cookies and they stay for the story, or they're there for the story and they stay for the cookies. So
Yeah.
it's like it totally goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I were to just do an egg cookie, like a white egg cookie flood video,
Mhm.
and do a story to it, it probably would not do as well as if I put a face on it and a mouth. Like anything with a
Mhm.
face goes
Mhm.
so much better for me than if it doesn't have a face.
Okay. Now I know that the joke within Instagram Reel community is just like you spend so much time making this reel and it goes kerplop, and then you do like one flood reel and it goes like viral. And it's the same
Mhm.
thing a lot of times with photos, like these really gorgeous, intricate photos. Or intricate cookies, and it like doesn't do anything compared to like the super simple ones. And my my thought process a lot of times with that is like people are engaging with things that they feel like they themselves could do or
Mhm.
recreate.
Yep.
Do you feel like there are, I mean, how do you feel like that translate for TikTok content?
Yes. Just yes.
Same.
And that is my content.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I don't think a lot of cookiers follow me, because I don't post things that are really groundbreaking for the cookie community. I post things that seem really doable for the non-cookie community.
You say that, I will say the things that you do without projectors, it like gives me hives thinking about trying to create some of those things. I'm like, huh, huh. And you really advocate for that. Like, I mean, I hear that in your audios all the time. You're like, yeah, just don't overthink it. Just do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's really sweet that you say that, because especially coming from another cookier, because I think maybe in my head I'm like, maybe I don't want other cookiers to follow me, because I don't want them to see how bad I like botched this person's name that
Well,
I free-handed.
I love that about you, and I'm a huge advocate for repurposing cookie cutters in different ways. And obviously, if you don't follow Guardy Goodies yet, she does a Mystery Monday cookies. And I feel like you've had that at certain times and then it kind of went away and then you kind of brought it back. And I really feel like that is kind of a staple to your brand now. So like, how did that whole thing come to be, and kind of give us a synopsis of what it is?
Well, so I would do this on my Facebook with just a picture, and I would get tons of engagement. And so when I was kind of running out of content ideas in the first like 3 months after I blew up, but I had this super captive audience, I was like, okay, I'll bring this back. And, we all have that sweet sugar bell flip set. And I'm like, I don't even have to
Mhm.
think. She's got it all, thought out for me. I know what I can do. Um, and so I posted and I just said, what will this cookie be? And someone in the comments said, you should do this every Monday and call it Mystery Cookie Monday. Like they gave me the idea, like
I
my
love it.
followers created it. And so I was really faithful about posting that every single Monday. And then it stopped getting as much engagement. And so I was like, you know what? I think this has to go away for a little while for
Mhm.
it to be exciting again and for it to reach a new audience. It was sort of like I had grown stagnant with that form.
Yeah.
But then, and I think I stopped doing it for like 6 months and then I brought it back and then had one of those like strokes of genius creative times with a ghost cookie and it
Yes.
it went viral on both platforms like immediately, which has never happened. It's either you're doing well
That
on
I just
TikTok.
saw that you have it. I can't remember if you have it pinned or
I
it's just
do.
okay, yeah, and it's the love plaque,
Yeah.
right? That you flip.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was just like one of those moments where you just have this idea and I just was like, I gotta do this. And I did it
Yeah.
really quickly and then it just worked. And like I said, I feel like you're either doing really well on TikTok and you're bombing on Instagram or you're doing
Mhm.
really like you could never be the same on both
Yep.
platforms. But that was the one video that got both went viral on both platforms, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's so fun. Do you have the notification, like, pop up on your phone at all, or you don't see it until you log in?
I
I
don't
know, I feel like that's huge for mental health too.
I have zero notifications on my
Same.
phone except for
Same.
my Target app, which I want to turn off. But I'm scared if I turn it off, it won't tell me when my groceries are ready to pick up.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Yeah, that's so cool. So, and do you do? Because I've seen before where you'll do like 4 or 5 different designs with
Yeah.
one cookie cutter. Is that the same every time?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes that happens because followers will send me ideas, and I
I
usually
love
try to
that.
credit them and say so and
Hmm.
so. I mean, I always credit them and say someone sent it to me, and so that's one reason. And sometimes when I'm when I really have the time, I will plan out 3 different designs that I'm going to do and bake 3 different cookies, and
Yeah.
it just really depends.
So, how do you kind of go about planning out your content? Because I know you're just kind of doing pre-sale stuff right now. You're not so
Yeah.
much doing customs. So, with that, I mean, I can attest to this. I'm not even doing pre-sales anymore. So, it's really like, okay, so I've got to come up with content now. Like, so, what's kind of your process? And what kind of time do you have allowed to do that? How much time are you spending doing all of that?
I've taken a lot of pressure off myself for posting in the last couple of months, just because I need to focus on selling cookies more than
Mhm.
creating content.
Yeah.
And so I need to make sure I'm engaging with my actual customers and not to forget that.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, those are the people that are buying my cookies. I can, act like a hotshot because I have 900,000 followers on TikTok. But if they're
Right.
not buying a cookie from me,
Yeah.
there's only so many opportunities that can get you. But so right now, my content is just coming really sporadically, and it's not super planned at all. But I don't know that it ever has been super planned, to be
Yeah.
honest. And I think that's sometimes it's just sort of like that same mantra of or that same thing that happens when you overdo a cookie. When you work really hard on it and post it, no one likes it, but when you don't
Mhm.
think about it, and all of my content that has happened on a whim has done better. So it's just for me, it's better to just not stress
Yeah.
about it.
It's the same way I feel like with reels too. It's like the
Yeah.
shorter ones that you're not thinking too much about. Do you feel like, so if we're speaking to home-based bakers who are working to build their client base and their business, do you feel like TikTok is an avenue that will help them get that business if they do not ship? Or do you feel like TikTok is really a place where it's more about building your brand overall?
Definitely the latter. I think
Yeah.
if I don't think it's a bad idea to have TikTok, and to engage with it as much as you feel like if you're just a home baker,
Mhm.
make sure you've taken the name, Karen's Cookies or
Right.
whatever your name is so that you have it. And just repurpose, so that you can have it. Just kind of like Facebook for me, like I'm not super active on there, but I still make sure that it's there.
Yeah.
Um, as far as, what you want to get out of it, if you want to dive into TikTok, ask yourself that, like, what do I want to get out of this? Is this
Mhm.
worth my energy? If you want the potential of working with brands, absolutely, you should be on TikTok. If that seems really cool to you, that's where you should be. If you have a digital product that you can sell, or a product that you can ship, merchandise, apparel,
Mhm.
whatever, you should be on TikTok,
Yeah.
because you have the potential to absolutely change your life.
Yeah.
Um, so it would be silly not to. But
Yeah.
if I'm someone who's just starting out in my business and I'm looking at all of these avenues of things that I'm supposed to be doing because other
Mhm.
people are doing them, I would honestly, it would be low on my priority list, and it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, as somebody who's in social media consulting space like that, yeah, it's it's great for the online products. It's great for building brands, and it's great for. I think it can be great for a community aspect.
mhm.
Um,
That being said, I think there's a lot of space for cookie influencers to
mhm.
exist, and I don't think it's out of the reach for anybody to do it.
Well, and one of the things that I do love that it provides is I feel like going back to a point that you made earlier, it provides you the opportunity to put content out there, but think less about it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to edit it to the nth degree. Like it's very low pressure
Hmm.
to be able to put content out
And
there.
low budget.
And low budget. Exactly. I mean, how
You don't
many of
need
us are
studio lights.
decorating cookies at night,
Yeah, exactly.
under like a lamp? And those are the ones I can't remember if it was you or somebody else that told me, like, basically the lower budget, like darker and
Hmm.
cracklier you can make it, the better it's
Hmm.
going to do.
It's true. It's true, because I've tried, like you said, I'm decorating at night, and I've tried to beef up my production, and it's not going to be there. It's not
Yeah.
going to be downtown dough. It's not going to
Yeah.
be it just
Arlo's or yeah.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I had to reconcile that with myself, of
Yeah.
like, okay, Maddie, you're going to stick to, just, you got to do it at night. Like, you've got
Mhm.
kids. At the end of the day, like, you can't do this during the day. And the occasional one I can decorate during the day. Like,
Yeah.
when I do have a brand commitment, I do try to do it in the daytime with some really nice lighting.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, the ones that do really well are those low budget looking ones.
Yeah. Do you feel like consistency is key when it comes to TikTok like it is with Instagram?
No.
You
Mm-mm.
can hop in 1 week and out for a couple
Oh,
weeks.
I think for building a following, you need to be consistent.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Um,
you post same time certain days,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I've actually recently stopped doing that, because I again felt my growth was stagnant, and that I need to reach new people. And so it's a good
Mhm.
idea for me to switch it up. Even if that means I'm not going to see the same numbers initially, I'm going to be able to hit new people that are on their phones at 9 o'clock at night rather than
Yeah,
at 4 p.m.
yeah,
Because 4 p.m. was always my TikTok time, because that's when kids are getting home from school and they're on the bus and they're on their phone and they're, looking at Mystery Cookie Monday. Like, I was very aware that my following is like ages 12 and up, maybe even younger.
So you gotta keep your content clean,
Yes.
huh?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. And I'm very aware of that, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that in my real life. I'm a super, like, you know, kid friendly person in all ways. But I'm very aware of who my following is. And then I get in Instagram, I get so many moms that message me that are like, I watch this with my 4-year-old, my 3-year-old, my kids, they ask for this
Mm.
every night. That I'm like, that's my audience on Instagram. So, like, it
Yeah,
totally motivates me, and it gives me, it's nice to have those boundaries.
yeah. That's really sweet. Yeah, it reminds me of a cookie friend that was at this past weekend, and she was talking about how her son, they like limit his screen time, and he realized that if he sits and watches mommy like look at baking videos, then he can get away
It
with
gets
more
it.
screen time.
Yeah, it's true.
Like that's a smart kid.
It is.
Okay, well, you had mentioned too talking about working with brands. Um, if that's where you want to see your company going and your brand going. So I've kind of picked your brain a bit about this before, and we said, this is really something that we feel passionate about wanting to get out there in our community because there are a lot of our brands that are building bigger in the social media landscape and getting into more of like a content influencer kind of status. And there's not much education out there about how to make sure you're getting what that's worth, or like how much should you be charging? Or, I mean, there's managers out there and management companies for high-end influencers. I've worked with influencers and I know that they have that, but I feel like that's not really present in our community because there's purely just not as many of us. So talk me through how you've managed that and what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the wild, wild west, and especially it is, and no one wants to. It's that stage right now where no one's willing to share. I have had talent agencies reach out to me wanting to represent me, and I have not chosen to go that route because I haven't been willing to give a percentage of what I'm doing. And so they know that we're out there.
Yeah.
So that's why I encourage everybody, like, I am not trying to dominate this field. Like, if there can be 1 million beauty influencers, there can be 1 million cookie influencers. Yeah. So I'm always a pretty open book about that. But yeah, it's the wild, wild west right now as far as what to charge, how to do it, yada, yada. And if it's something you truly want to get into, the first thing I started doing is following accounts on TikTok that work with social media influence, whatever you want to call them, creators. And that was really helpful and really eye-opening. But
do they talk openly about all of that stuff?
Yes. Yep. Okay. And I'll try to round up like a good list of ones that
That'd be great, and we can include that in the show notes.
And some of them are great because they're like specifically for moms that have side hustles, like how to make money from brands. And and some of them are like how to like get the most out of your Amazon storefront, because a lot of us are operating it at the bare minimum of what it could actually do if you invest a little time. But again, I could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But as far as like making cookies for a brand and making a video, that whole like avenue fell into my lap without knowing what to do whatsoever. And I just I Googled, the same way I learned how to do cookies, I Googled, what do you charge for a video? And that's really difficult because, a beauty influencer just needs to put the makeup on. And like for a cookie artist, we need to plan out our set, make the dough, make the icing, film it at the perfect angle, film it again, and so, so even then I don't think that it's, an accurate representation. So if that's something you want to look into, first, maybe don't be afraid to reach out to a company, whatever avenue you can, and a company that you really like, that you would enjoy making a cookie video for. And maybe you're just making it in exchange for a product that you want. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. I would suggest engaging with that company and like putting time into engaging with them genuinely, responding to stories. Like, don't just hop on it like out of the blue. For sure. I do think that builds that just builds up a genuine relationship there. Especially like if it's something you already use, like, and you already like talking about it, like talk about it in your stories without being paid for it, Yeah.
But I know, like, for me, I really wanted a Cricut to make stencils. And so I just reached out to them and I said, hey, I can, create some content for you that's a new community base, that maybe you don't normally market to, that would totally eat up a Cricut, ad or whatever. And they were open to, they sent me a Cricut. I didn't get paid money for it, but I was really happy because then I got a Cricut. Yeah. Did you reach out to them via TikTok? Nope. I don't know if I should be sharing this. It's pretty, I super sleuthed and I went on their LinkedIn and I Googled in the Cricut social media person, all the little keywords that I could. Man, that's not sketchy. That's a hustle. That's the hustle, man. That's the hustle. Yeah. I love it. But I will say, and this is actually, like, we could talk about this as an entirely different topic. If you go viral, be prepared for people to be in your DMs that want to work with you.
Yeah.
And not all of them have great intentions, and not all of them are going to represent you, and not all of them should you say yes to, you know? So
Yeah.
like with that viral aspect can kind of open some doors that are just difficult
Yeah.
to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I remember you showing on, I don't remember if it was your stories or what it was, but something about like a brand reaching out to you and you said something about like, great, I charge this much for a post. And then it was just like ghost.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because they're expecting to take advantage of somebody who's not a beauty
Yeah.
influencer, they're like, oh, well, they don't know what it should be. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's the same as with cookies, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Totally.
Um,
Well, I think that it's great to open up that conversation, and yeah, I'm excited to see the different people that you follow and that you suggest following for that, because there are plenty of people out there, and I think that it goes back to the very beginning of all this of what you were saying is you were following very different people when you got into TikTok,
mhm,
and just like having a different environment. I'm a huge advocate for following people not in our industry because there are so many trends and knowledge outside of our industry, whether it comes to marketing or just like trends in general or social media or business,
mhm.
that should be crossed over into what we do and what we're doing. And that's a huge part of why we started the cookie chat, is because there wasn't as much talk about that stuff in our community.
Yeah.
And so it does. I mean, I encourage people, most things that you're seeing in other business avenues or other communities can cross over and should be crossed over to what we
Mhm,
do.
mhm.
Well, what are maybe like three things, if anybody was wanting to dive into TikTok and feeling inspired and wanting to move forward, what are kind of three initial tips or pieces of advice that you would want to leave them with?
I would say, and this almost kind of just recaps what we were talking about, but set your intentions. Know what they are. If you're doing it for fun, that's a perfectly fine intention.
Mhm.
Don't go into it with the wrong expectations, right? Don't go into like, I'm going to go viral and then just set
Yeah.
your intentions. And I think when you have that focus, then you know why you're even there.
Yeah.
And the second one would be consistency. Like we said, decide you're going to show up every day, and don't just show up in your posting, but show up in, I know this is so annoying because we don't want to be on our phones anymore, but show up in your viewing of TikTok, because
Mhm.
understanding the environment and how just the culture there is different from Instagram is going to help you set you apart when you actually create the content.
Yeah.
And then the third one, oh, I had it in my head and then I lost it. So I said, set your intentions, be consistent. Oh,
Mhm.
authentic. Be authentic.
Yeah.
Stop trying to do what other cookiers are doing. Like, stop trying to be the Arlo's cookies or whoever you've
Mhm.
seen that has done it before, and just be you. It doesn't mean you need to do a voiceover if you're not comfortable doing that, but just be you. If you decide to do a voiceover, don't try to be anybody except for you, because there's somebody out there that relates to that. And chances are there's a lot of people that relate to it a lot
Yeah.
better than if you were like, this is my cookie I created. I worked very hard on this and I am going to show you. Like, no one wants to hear that. We want to know what the actual, you is behind the video. So
Yeah.
that would be the biggest one.
I love that. Maddie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've learned so much and it's definitely inspired me. I'm going to start trying to get back on my TikTok game. But again, thank you for taking the time. I know it's a holiday week. I know it's busy. I know it's late that we are recording this. So it's so, so, so appreciated. And we would love to have you back to talk about more concepts because you're just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, super fun. I love talking about it. Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks so
Thank you
much for
so
having me.
much. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cookie Chat. Pop over and check out Maddie on both Instagram and her TikTok, obviously. And you can check us out on Instagram, Patreon, YouTube, all the places. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We will see you next time.